Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the RK Football Podcast. The new season is fast approaching. Teams are in pre-season. Let's not talk about Villa starting pre. We're not doing that. No. The teams are in pre-season and transfers are all the thing at the moment. I think we have to start with this Liverpool Newcastle battle that's gone on. So let me tell the chronology of it, I guess. So it started with Newcastle's interest in Hugo Ekitike. We think Ekitike. Their interest in him, and then Liverpool came in for Alexander Isak. Obviously, Newcastle weren't keen on selling Isak at all. So Liverpool went, okay, well, we'll just sign Ekitike instead then, and you won't have him, and we'll have him instead. And that seems to be where it's happening.
Yeah.
£69 million fee for the £69 million fee for the striker. Yeah, I mean, 10 million in add-ons as well, so £79 million fee, really. It's a really interesting move, isn't it? 23 years of age. He definitely got his future. The best of his career is probably going to be ahead of him as well. What do we think?
Very high. It was a very high sum of money to pay for a player who didn't have a very prolific season last season. I think it was only 8 goals and sort of maybe 10 or 15 assists. Um, Obviously, we all know the market has been bloated for a long time as well. But yeah, it seems like a lot of 70 million for not a hugely prolific player, I guess. But I guess Arnie thought sees something in him. But
Yeah, he hasn't been hugely prolific yet in
no,
his career in general. I mean, he was at
still young.
PSG at one point as well. People forget he
Yeah.
was
That's
at
right. Yeah,
PSG.
he was well, part of their academy, was he not? If
Well,
I
he came
remember.
through the Rems Academy, had
Oh,
a season in Liga, then obviously PSG snapped him up as like an 18-year-old. So I get what you're saying, but I mean, only 3 goals in 25 appearances for PSG on loan. He only had one appearance once he'd moved there permanently. Then moved to Frankfurt on loan. 4 goals in 14 games isn't amazing, is what you'd say. And then had a pretty decent season last season with actually 15 goals in 33 games in the Bundesliga
Oh,
last season. So not like it's not Haaland, do you know what I mean? But it's a pretty good record last
yeah.
season. And at
yeah,
only
yeah,
23 years of age, he's going to get better. Clearly,
absolutely.
Liverpool see him as the man that's going to be their top guy in 3 to 4 years' time for a long time. I would
Do you think
imagine with
it?
this transfer.
Do you think it spells the end for Nunes probably going this summer, or do you think
Yeah.
he's going to be there
Mm,
next
I,
season?
I, I don't think Nunes is going because they've signed Ekiteke. Nunes was going.
Yeah, no,
Do you know
yeah,
what I
Because
mean?
he's a terrible player. Yeah.
he is. But what I'm getting at is that like if they didn't sign a striker, I think Slot would have kept him on because they wouldn't have had like another striker. But now they've got that striker. I think that now it'll be
Yeah,
right. You can go
I,
now.
If they
I,
get a
I
decent
will
fee
say,
for him, they'll push him on. Yeah.
yeah, I will say I think he was going anyway, and I actually think Liverpool will sign another striker before the end of the summer transfer window because the sad news with Jota means, unfortunately, they are in need of another striker.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a different conversation. Ekateki, then look, what's really interesting for me is when you, and we'll get onto this in a little bit, but you look at the fact that Arsenal are in for Victor Gyökeres.
Mm.
Man United seem to be going after potentially Benjamin
Yeah.
Sesko, depending on what you read
Oh,
right now. Um, those three strikers are the three strikers this summer in world football that everyone's after. They are the top three strikers available in world football this summer. And there's a very, well, no, very good's probably a bit optimistic. There's a chance that by the time we get to September, all three are playing in the Premier League alongside Alexander Isak and Erling Haaland. And that's probably the up there with some of not five, maybe five of the seven best strikers in the world right now, or maybe eight. Do you know what I mean? Real
Yeah,
top quality
yeah.
strikers all coming to the Premier League. That's exciting, surely.
The only striker I would say that I was a bit surprised no one's even tried to make a plunge for him is
Hoyland.
the Dortmund striker.
Uh,
Did he say? Who
no, I
did he
don't know.
say?
He said,
Rasmus
you
Hoyland.
mean Garassi?
Yes, that's it, Garassi. Yes, I'm surprised no one's even tried to go in for him because I think
Still,
he's a
still time.
talent. Yeah,
Still
that's true.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah, still young.
Stu, talk to me about Ekiteke. I mean, would you rather have Isak or Ekiteke? He's going to say Ekiteke because that's what's going through. But genuinely, what would you like?
I, it's a tough one because if I was greedy, I'll say I'd take both. But I mean, but it's just not a situation this season. I mean, I honestly, I think Ekitike is just like for the kind of like for Liverpool signing. He's more of a Liverpool signing in as it is Isak. Obviously, as you guys have alluded to, he's more of like kind of like he's like 23, so he's not getting to that point where he's getting to his peak years. And obviously, he's would as you said, we're not really buying him for the goals. We're kind of buying him for like his pressing and his kind of good movement and kind of flexibility. So, and it's kind of what our strike, kind of what up front's had a problem with, because that's why Luis Diaz is playing that position, or we've been trying like false nines and all that, because we haven't had that player that's good link up play, probably since Roberto Firmino, maybe like had that person that can link up well.
Yeah.
So with obviously people said nearly 70 million. That's a lot of money, yeah. But I think so the question is at the moment is like, was it Newcastle outmaneuver us by basically like they put a bid in for Ekitike just so they can kind of take us off getting Isak, or or was it some sort of?
I don't think so, and the reason I say that is because back in January 2022, Ekitike was rumoured to be a target of Newcastle there, and I think he rejected them then before he went to PSG in the summer. So clearly Eddie Howe has been looking at this player for a while and thought this is the summer it's going to happen. It didn't. He does seem to be a big match player, if that makes sense. Goals against Bayern Munich last year, a goal in the Europa League quarterfinals against Spurs. So he could be a player that scores big goals, maybe not loads of goals in the first season, which is a pretty handy player to have. And the other thing I wanted to mention on this, because we've spoke about this in terms of some of the English clubs, we mentioned, Brighton and Bournemouth, very good at this. What a piece of business from Eintracht Frankfurt, by the way. Picked him up from PSG for 16 million euros. And then they're selling him now for 79 million pounds, which is probably what 90 million euros ish, something like that, depending on your exchange rate.
How much did they sell? What's his name? The one I went to see. Because
I know the one you mean, Mamouche.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah,
Mamouche. I think he was about 60.
It's a fair bit. It was like 40 or 50, wasn't it?
Yeah. They probably had a big turnaround on him as well.
Yeah,
they definitely had a big turnaround because he signed for them on a free transfer, and then went to Manchester City for 59 million pounds. So Frankfurt are doing some very good business. So don't be surprised if you hear Eintracht Frankfurt's director of football has been snapped up by a Premier League side. Blah blah blah. So that's certainly a good piece of business.
The one thing that does concern me though from Newcastle's perspective is how a player like this, yes, they've got Isak, so it's not too much concern, but they're not being able to attract those players enough to their side, despite like last few seasons being one of the best clubs in England. And do you think is a PSR playing a part in that, or do you think it's more they're not an attractive name in there yet?
Well, think about it in a situation of obviously they are a kind of fluctuating club at the moment. Because obviously, if you're looking at it as a player, Newcastle have gone in the Champions League, not in the Champions League, in the Champions League. So it would be if they next season can stabilize themselves and get Champions League again, then I think they'd be a more of attractive proposition. I just think I think that's it. It's like, yes, you can see like a team on the rise, but example, like the last time they were in the Champions League, they struggled with squad. Was it their squad of like trying to get it to work? Like was it? So if they can do that this season and get again, then I think they'll get good play. Like, more players would be interested in joining them. But yeah, I think it's more of the Champions League thing. I think.
I mean, just looking at the players they've been linked with this summer, I think it probably says more about the other clubs rather than Newcastle. Obviously, they've signed Anthony Elanga from Nottingham Forest, which could be a really great signing for them. Ekitike, look, Stu's mentioned about the in and out of the Champions League, but also the other team in with them are the Premier League champions Liverpool, who are probably going to give the Champions League a very good go this year. I know which club I'm joining out of the two. João Pedro is probably the one that you look at a bit odd joining Chelsea over Newcastle, but at the same time, Chelsea definitely seem to be a club on the rise. And if you look maybe long term, have a better chance of staying on the rise than Newcastle potentially. I hope I'm wrong in a way for Newcastle, but potentially. And then other people like Brian Mbeumo. Look, Brian Mbeumo was going to Man United, whether Real Madrid came in for it this summer, to be honest.
The only clubs that ever stood a chance of getting him were Man United and Spurs.
I don't think he had to.
It was always going to be
Brian Mbeumo wanted to be a Man United player. That's what he dreamed
of
as a kid, and that's where he's going. But what I'm saying is Newcastle have gone in for these players, and no one's gone, I don't want to play for Newcastle. They've gone, I'd rather play for Liverpool, or I need to play for Man United. Or the other thing with João Pedro actually is, do you want to join Chelsea where that striker position is up for grabs and he will think that's his spot, or do you want to join Newcastle with Alexander Isak?
That's a fair point as well. The thing that I think hopefully in the next few years for Newcastle it does change, because I'd love to see them keep rising, because the job Eddie Howe's done there is just phenomenal. Is that maybe they're not able to offer as well what Liverpool can offer, not just in terms of Champions League football, potential trophies, but also in terms of financially as well. Maybe they can. They've got
money will come into it as well. Obviously,
maybe they've only can only allow them what the wages that, for example, West Ham can offer. Do you know what I mean? Like they just don't have that.
I mean, if we're talking high enough, if you're on about PSR in that sense, and we spoke about this before on this podcast, that PSR is a bit of a joke and designed for the big clubs, and Newcastle unfortunately do not fall into that category. So yes, a Liverpool, a Chelsea, a Man United will have more of a financial muscle no matter where they finish in the league than Newcastle because of these PSR rules. I get that point, and that may be a fair point, but I don't actually think it's made a difference this summer yet. If we were saying that Hugo Ekitike was going, or whatever his name is, was going to Spurs, was going to Man United, and that's a move that didn't make much sense for them, I'd kind of get it. But we're talking Liverpool, you know what I mean? We're talking the best club in the country in the last 12 months. It's a no-brainer. I don't think Newcastle fans have anything to be concerned about just yet. Keeping Isak's a signing for them, to be honest with you.
Isak is a hugely successful summer for Newcastle if they can keep Isak. Absolutely.
Isak and Elanga linking up as well is something that should excite a lot of Newcastle fans. And I think you're right about the key for them is this year. I understand what you say about trying to get in the Champions League spots, and that would be amazing for them, but we know how difficult that is to do for a club like Newcastle 2 years in a row. Villa found it out last year. It's very difficult to do. But if they do what Villa did last year and still qualify for a Europa League and have a good run in the Champions League, maybe not
another domestic trophy, maybe,
and that'd be a superb thing for them. Absolutely. I wonder what the aims are for Newcastle this year, but we can talk about that. We're going to do a preview episode, aren't we? We spoke about it in a preview episode and how we're going to work it out, but we'll talk about Newcastle there. Let's move on to from one United to another. Let's talk about this Man United striker thing, right? There was a question in the list of what to talk about from Stu about United overpaying for players. David, I wonder what you think about this, because they are going for some pretty big names considering they finished in 16th in the league or whatever it was.
But no Champions football to offer.
And no European football to offer.
Well, that's almost like... Sorry, go ahead, sorry.
I was going to say, do you think that goes into why potentially maybe they're overpaying a little bit, because they have to use their financial muscle because they don't have anything else going for them at the minute, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that could definitely come into it with a lot of these things where they don't have that particular Champions League or European football thing to kind of sell. They are sort of paying over the odds for a lot of these players. But I don't think they are specifically. I mean, I think you could point to any signing in any summer for the last 20 years and say, oh, they kind of overspent on that player, didn't they? Or that seems a lot for that player, so it's ubiquitous in the sport, these kind of mad fees that are coming in, but I certainly think there is something to United not having much in the way of European football to kind of put forth to a player that they're trying to bring on board, so that maybe they are trying to they kind of have to, or they kind of at the mercy of the selling club to have to kind of go over the odds to get them.
It's interesting, isn't it, that Amorim's targeting actually some pretty big names, because I think we spoke at the end of last season, and
Nicholas Jackson.
And well, he's still quite a big name, I would say.
Won 2 trophies.
And
Yeah.
I think we spoke at the
One of
end
the
of last
least
season.
important trophies in football. Sorry.
We spoke at the end of last season that maybe someone like Liam Delap would have been a good signing for United this summer in terms of the progression, etc. They're clearly going a higher name than that.
Yeah.
Benjamin Sesko in particular is one that really could be a great signing for United.
And I gave Nicholas Jackson some grief there, but to be honest, I think he would be I think a lot of strikers would be a vast improvement on our current striker, Rasmus Højlund. I think it was 3 goals last season. I might be wrong on that, but a ridiculously low amount of input last season. He's been dreadful. He started off okay, but he was dreadful last season.
I would have concerns about Jackson, if I'm honest. And the reason I say that is clearly there's a lot of talent there, but the negatives of his time at Chelsea, which I don't think has been a whole lot, but there has been some negatives, would be worse in this United team, if that makes sense.
Come on, Matt. He's had some stinkers. He has had some
awful.
Yeah, but I'm saying I don't think he's been completely trash, is what I'm saying.
No. He's not been completely trash. He has produced some of the goods. Like there was a stat I saw the other day that he has got 38 goal involvements in his time at Chelsea. He's been there 2 seasons. And for a striker who's not had a fantastic time at Chelsea, he's done all right, I think. However, his attitude stinks.
Yeah, and that's my concern.
Stinks. Cole Palmer, I always remember the Cole Palmer penalty, and he was arguing with him.
Oh, that was so embarrassing. Yeah.
In the Club World Cup, some of it, like his tackling, is really dangerous, like to the point of he will get sent off, and his attitude on the pitch, if things don't go his way, he'll get sent off as well. To be honest, yes, it's a shame we're losing him, but I think something like that in the dressing room, I can't wait to go.
You might not lose him. Let's see how it goes. But this is my point about United. You take a really bad attitude player at times with Jackson and put him into a really bad attitude dressing room in a club that's attitude is the problem and characteristics is the problem right now. It's just not going to work. Whereas maybe it's like putting Balotelli in a way. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. But I mean, maybe a Sesko would be better. Obviously, there's still talks about Victor Gyökeres, and obviously Gyökeres and Amorim have linked up so well at Sporting, but that seems to be the Arsenal. I can't see him
going anywhere but Arsenal.
He's gone. He's going Arsenal.
Yeah, so I'm not pinning any hope on that. But in terms of the window in general, I'm relatively happy actually securing Mbeumo and sorry, lost my sound there for a second. And Cunha. I think it's in winger positions basically where that's obviously desperately needed with all the players that we're going to be missing or going out on loan again or whatever, you know.
I mean, I'll say this: if they sign someone like Sesko, front three with Sesko, Cunha, and Mbeumo, could mean that United are box office next season because they're not concerned about defensive work. They just want to attack.
There's been so many false dawns with this post Alex Ferguson era.
I'm not saying you'll be successful, but you'll be box office to watch. You'll be Spurs basically.
Yeah, it'll be box office for how bad they'll be.
Score goals, but then concede like tons of goals.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and the other thing as well is what Cunha are you going to get? Are you going to get the one that scored the brilliant goals for Wolves? Or you're going to get the one that caused bust-ups on the pitch. Don't know till it happens. I do agree with Carl. It is going to be interesting to watch what they're going to be like. I can't
wait for Matthias Cunha to just drop the nut on Bruno Fernandes because he wants the penalty one day. It's going to be a lot of fun watching United. On that note, I want to talk about something United now that David's here because it's been a rumour over the summer, and I think it's the most stupidest rumour. I'm sure David's seen it. Obviously, United are in for a new keeper this year. That's no surprise. There have been rumours from South American media, so, take what you will from that, about Aston Villa goalkeeper Emi Martinez going to Old Trafford this summer.
Yeah.
I find this the most bizarre transfer rumour of the summer because it just makes absolutely no sense that a goalkeeper that, yes, admittedly probably didn't have the best season last year, compared to the year before, but he's still up there with one of the best goalkeepers in the world right now.
Yeah.
Why would he go to Man
Yeah,
United?
it would make no sense for him. I agree with that. If he came to United, I'd be absolutely thrilled, but it's just not going to happen. And like you said, it would make no sense for him to make that move.
My suspicion is it's South American media trying to get an Argentine to play for Man United. And
I don't think
that
it's.
feels
I think the
like all
last
it is.
Argentine that played for United kind of crashed and burned there, which is Di Maria. So I don't think. Oh no, Garnacho's Argentinian as well. Never mind.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's any.
but he won't be at United by the end of the summer either. So
yeah,
well,
really true. Yeah, very unlikely. Yeah.
But yeah, it's a bizarre one. I wanted to mention it.
Can I just mention briefly about Rashford going to Barcelona?
Yes.
Do you guys think that because it kind of came up recently, didn't it? The last couple of weeks, it was rumored where he might be. That's where he wanted to go. We were all like, "Oh yeah, right," as if he can just pick and choose. And off he goes. He's going there. So I'm kind of thinking, like, will I be hoping that he does well and finds his form again, or will I be hoping he crashes and burns?
Can we acknowledge a couple of things with this, right?
Yeah.
First of all, I love that in the loan deal there's a £65 million optional transfer fee. Yeah, like Barcelona paying that for Marcus Rashford. And two, this is the best bit, right? They've signed him on loan, but as it stands, they are unable to register him in a matchday squad because they will have to sell someone to make space.
I mean, this happened before with them, didn't it? This happened a few years back with Barcelona. Who's the player? They signed someone big and they had to.
Yeah,
they weren't in the match.
I think I know. Hey, I had it on the tip of my tongue there. I don't know.
Was that the someone who got Lewandowski in? Like
it wasn't Coutinho, was it?
I've got a feeling it might have been Lewandowski. I've got a feeling.
They couldn't register like any of their signings.
Yeah. I'm sure they'll sort their squad out. While we're on the subject of United, right at the end, just to confirm it, a minute ago as of recording, Brentford forward Brian Mbeumo has officially signed for Man United in a £71 million deal. So that is through 5-year contract, £65 million up front, $6 million in add-ons. So yeah, that is officially done.
United keep going. Another keeper, another central midfielder, another left back. That'll be good.
I'll be honest, they're making good moves.
Yes, they are. They're back. I like it. It's good to see that they're spending the money and getting the players in. Good players. Players are in form.
I do understand what you say about false dawns, and I get why you've been burnt before, but the truth is United have to be better this season, because if they're worse, they're in the Championship the following season.
They need to be better by Christmas. If there's no improvement by Christmas, Amorim might go. They might just have no. Jim Ratcliffe might have no decision but to sack him. A few variables, obviously, but I mean, if their league form just continues to not improve, what can they do? I mean, spending all this money in the summer, it does have to work. But if it's, I mean, you all remember how bad United were last season. If that continues on from August through to December, I mean, it'd be interesting to see what happens.
It's a shame, really, because I've really enjoyed this time, but I feel like it's coming to an end, guys.
I'm sure you all have.
I think that these players that Man United have actually brought in this summer, they're proven talent in English football. Whereas Xerxes and Højlund,
unproven, exactly.
But
I mean, there's a long list. I mean, there's an infinite list of players who are unproven, came into the Premier League and just lit it up. So I get your point. I'm happy. In form players who are Premier League players coming in is good. Dynamic players.
He's going to be saying Man United to win the league in a couple of weeks.
Well, it'll go that way, or Man United will make Brian Mbeumo look like Eric Jemba. So we'll find out, shall we?
Or the first game of the season, someone cracks him and breaks his ankle, he's out for the season. I'm like, great.
Keep that record.
Touch wood, that does not happen.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on from transfers to the Women's European Championship. What a quarter-final, by the way, between England and Sweden. Sweden went 2-0 up and looked pretty safe into the semi-finals, to be honest. And then the Lionesses did something pretty incredible. Lucy Bronze, and that goal from Michelle Agumang was mental. That the commentator losing their mind. It is what football's about, to be honest. At a top level, that was exactly what you want to see from the Women's Euros. And obviously, they went on to win the penalty shootout. Means they face Italy in Geneva tomorrow as a recording. They may be out the tournament by the time this goes out. We'll see. But I did want to mention that, look, 7.4 million viewers in the UK for that quarterfinal. For a moment like that as well, it's just a great moment, not just for women's football, but for football in general. What a moment.
Can I say as well? Yeah, you mentioned the viewership, but also on the BBC Sport, the live coverage, the live text coverage. I think at one point there was over 105,000 people on that page as well, which is a lot. Wow. So yeah, there was huge coverage for it, lots of interest, and quite rightly so. It was a mental match.
So basically, to those people that will comment on things and say we don't want to watch. Okay, well you don't. I do. We do. We very much enjoyed it. So thank you very much, Lionesses, for something very, very entertaining in a midweek night. Do we think they'll get through Italy? I mean, as I say, the game will be done by the time this goes out. But in hindsight, do we think we'll get past Italy and Geneva?
There's enough players in that side that done it in the Euros when we won it. Who've got the experience. I think we'll crack on to the final.
But we have to play better because obviously that was it. First, was it an hour? Just like it was.
Up until England's first goal, they were hopeless.
Yeah, it basically was just Sweden basically like holding good defensive line and they hit us on the break and they got us two big good goals. But yeah, I mean, I think with the Italy game, I think it's more like if we play the way that we did like against Netherlands, it should be quite a straightforward victory. But if we play against Sweden, it's going to be a tough one because obviously Italy knocked out. Was it Norway? Like the kind of a big club, a big
Norway had a great group, and then lost out to Italy. Yeah,
but so I'm still on the England-Spain final.
I mean, well, that's what I was about to say. If Spain, assuming they can get through Germany and England do get through Italy, that is a brilliant World Cup final rematch. I believe as well. So
can we get revenge?
England want revenge. Spain want a European Championship to go with their World Cup. Let's see how that goes. We could be saying all this, and both teams are out, and we look forward to an Italy-Germany final. But yeah, the Women's Euros has been brilliant again, and it's a major step forward for women's football that it's happened as well in a country like Switzerland, I think, as well. Not in England, not in a major powerhouse of women's football, let's say. It happened in Switzerland, and that can only be good for the game, hopefully. Anyway, so that brings us to our question. Before we get to our question, I just want to say, obviously, I don't know if you guys are watching this probably on YouTube, but if you are only watching YouTube, we're on TikTok. We clip up some of the best stuff. We get a lot of hate on there. Make sure you follow on TikTok. We're also on
come join Instagram the hatred. Too.
Come join the hatred on both of those platforms. We enjoy it. So the question that was posed by Mr. Stuart Irvine in the chats: what is more difficult to win, the Premier League or the Champions League? Who wants the floor?
I think it's quite well. Can I just my piece with it's much more difficult to win the Premier League. I think, just for the simple fact that the Champions League has far fewer games. And that's kind of the basic one, isn't it? Maybe you'll be coming, obviously in the Champions League, you come up in latter stages, you come up against much better opponents than you would do in, say, the middle or bottom half of the Premier League. I get that. And they're over two legs as well. But I think just the pure dint of that there's fewer games just kind of puts the Premier League way ahead.
Let me play devil's advocate, though, right? Because say in the Premier League, Liverpool last season obviously smashed it, but say it was a closer run thing, but they beat the sides they're meant to beat. They beat the bottom 10. And they get wins against 6 to 10, let's say, right? But lose a couple of games to the top 4. They still win the league, right? Odds are they still win the league. The Champions League is you just need luck in a way to win the Champions League because you need a decent draw. If you play Real Madrid in the first knockout stage, it's a lot harder to win the Champions League.
Yeah, there's plenty of luck involved in the winning the Premier League as well.
I disagree with that because because PSG, they had what was it? I would say they actually had quite a hard draw going to the final because they had obviously the group stage, the league table part, they didn't do particularly well in. They only just made it through. The first round they played Liverpool, who ended up being champions of England. Then they played Aston Villa, admittedly probably the easiest game going up to the final.
And Villa beat them. at home, just for the record.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then they played Arsenal, who finished second.
Yeah,
in it.
they did.
So like these, I do think that
and beat Real Madrid, yeah.
Whoever you get in the draw does matter. But I do agree with David. It's like you've got to be good, at least 7 out of 10 throughout the entire season in the league. Whereas the Champions League, you can be okay in the group and then smash it in the knockout stages.
Well, even in the group, I mean, if you have 1 or 2 bad games in the group, that's you finish. I mean, this is the old style, obviously, but you can have 1 or 2 bad games and that you might be finished. You know, I think that the new format has actually made it even easier to kind of qualify for the next round.
Yeah, but I mean, this is kind of my point. You're saying about you can have 1 or 2 bad games and it's fine. You can have probably 6 bad games in a Premier League season, you'll be fine to win the league still. That's what I'm trying to say. I don't think for a second it's easy to win the league. I just think, like you mentioned, PSG, absolutely, they had a really hard run to the final and they got through it and they won it. To me, that says that was one of the best, the best Champions League wins of all time. Not,
Yeah.
But they made it look easy.
I think it depends who you ask as well. Now, if you ask PSG what's harder to win, the Champions League or Ligue 1, they're going to say the Champions League every time, you know. But if you ask a top Premier League team, obviously it's a lot different.
The other argument I do have about the league over the Champions League as well is Arsenal over the last few seasons. They finished second, and it would be argued that the reason they finished second is because they've had 4, maybe 5 games where they've let it slip. They've not had a load of games where they let it slip. It's been 4 or 5 games that let it slip. Now, if you do that in knockout football, yes, okay, one of those games could be the knockout stage and you're out. But clearly, in the Premier League, if you do have as many games as that, especially with the standards that Man City and Liverpool have produced over the last, say, 10 years, you're going to struggle to stay in the hunt then.
Do we think player style goes into it as well? And by that, I mean, some players are big match players, but aren't consistent. So in a league season, they're not really great for you. But in the Champions League, they're what you want. Because you when you've got Real Madrid away, you want them, they'll turn up. But Burnley away, they're not bothered. Do you think that goes into it sometimes?
Yeah. I think the style at which the team plays might come into it. So if you're a very dynamic, say when Klopp first came into Liverpool, for the first couple of years they couldn't win the league because he played that very, like you said, that rock and roll kind of style football. It was just non-stop energy. They would burn themselves out by the end of the season. It took them a while to actually win anything, you know. But maybe with a team like Mourinho's Chelsea in 2015, was it, where they were actually very, very dull to watch. But you had dynamic players up front like Willian and Hazard. And the team just kind of sat back and did the rest, you know, so they can conserve more energy. Yeah. So they didn't have to expend as much energy each year, or, you know, each game rather. Whereas the likes of maybe Liverpool, where they just every week it was just 110% up and down, you know, and they would just inevitably just burn themselves out.
I mean, I will say I've made the arguments for Champions League to play devil's advocate, but I actually do kind of agree that the league might be more difficult in the sense of if I was a player or a coach, I would probably be prouder to have had a consistent season and put the hard work in to win the league title than win the Champions League, which I'd be super proud about, don't get me wrong. But that journey that you can go on in a season where you will have downs, you will have ups, getting back up and enjoying the moment, all of that sort of stuff, which is what we love about sport in general, you tend to see more in league than European competitions.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't like. There's been some amazing European nights like over the years. I mean, probably my favourite one was probably Chelsea versus Liverpool. I think it was 2009. We drew 4-4 against them in the game. It's probably one of the best matches I've ever seen. It was in the Champions League, but from a personal perspective, and yes, I know Chelsea have won the Champions League twice, but I would always choose winning the Premier League over the Champions League. I'd always choose the Premier League because it is just, you have to be good enough for the entire season, and there are some quality teams in the Premier League now. I mean, you'd even argue that, well, it's been proven over the years, probably not the last 2 years, that the team at the bottom can beat the team at the top. That is a thing still. Not quite maybe last 2 seasons, but
That's what goes into it. And I spoke about this on last week's podcast, where for me, the Premier League has hit a peak, and for the last few years has been arguably quite boring. The Champions League has been way more exciting over the last, particularly last season. I think the Champions League was way more exciting than the Premier League was.
Yeah.
But what I will say is, and I mentioned at the start, bringing in Ekitike and Gyökeres and potentially Benjamin Sesko could blow the whole thing wide open. And maybe, say quietly, maybe we're back, boys. Maybe the Premier League is back, because we all want to see an exciting Premier League season. We all want to see upsets and unpredictability. And I think that's probably the bit that's been missing that the Champions League has had over the last few years. Unpredictability.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think what people enjoy more than anything, it's not what would be considered a lower side doing extremely well, like a Nottingham Forest or a Newcastle or an Aston Villa. I think what people enjoy even more is a great team doing really badly. So last season, you obviously had United and Tottenham just having horrendous domestic seasons. And people were really excited by it, and it was kind of interesting to watch every week. Like, what is going to happen? Like, are they going to lose again? That creates excitement as well, and viewership and all the rest of it. It's exciting for that.
It's going to sound weird. I actually disagree with that in a way. Like, yes, don't get me wrong. It was interesting seeing Man United and Spurs fall apart.
Yeah.
I remember the days when, like, do you remember Reading when they came up all those years ago and they finished like 7th in the league? Do you remember? And it was under Steve Coppell,
Steve Sidwell and the boys. Yeah,
like that. They didn't belong up there. Birmingham done it the year they won the League Cup. All this sort of thing.
Sorry. Hang on. I didn't
do you not support Birmingham?
You cannot say
I
they
can.
don't belong up there. That's a ridiculous. So by that logic, Forest don't belong to be where they were last year.
No, they do. They do. I never said about it. What?
Is it not the same thing?
So you're saying that like you find it more exciting for teams to do
a smaller
to
team
go above their station and
where they don't belong.
Yeah,
rather than a really good team being down where they don't belong.
Okay. I thought you were going on a tangent that Reading shouldn't have been there. Boring. They don't belong there. I could hear it. The big six fan was coming out, Matt. I could hear it.
But I will argue that Birmingham have had a better last probably 21st century than Aston Villa. I do not believe this. I just like to point that out. I just want to see Carl's face.
What is it with fans of teams that play in pure blue are just being arseholes? Do you know what I mean? What is it? Anyway.
Can I say something very quickly just about next season that I'm really looking forward to is Newcastle Sunderland derbies being back. They were always great to watch.
Oh yeah.
I'm really looking forward to them.
Yeah, I agree.
I think was the last one in the Premier League, the one that Defoe scored that amazing volley just before half time. Was it the last one? Yeah. They're always.
But I mean, you think to Barini, you think of. I mean, even further back that when Shearer was there and
they're all
Kevin Phillips and Noel Quinn. Yeah, I'll be honest, and I think I said this at the time. Sunderland getting promoted most excites me for this new season out of anything, if I'm honest, because that you talk about where teams belong, they're back where they belong. That is a massive football club, and they should have been in the Premier League a long time ago.
There are teams you look at in the Championship, and you do sit there and think to yourself, for me, Blackburn. I
know what you mean. I would
love to have Blackburn back in the Premier League.
Yeah, they're not even close to going up. That's even more upsetting.
No, but do you know one player I always remember, and it always comes up on social media, Morton Gamps Pedersen. Do you remember him? What a player he was.
Give me Blackburn in the Premier League over Sheffield United every day of the week, by the way. Also great, as much as two of you, I'm thinking United and Chelsea fans may not like it as much, but Leeds back in the Premier League in the same breath.
I like that. They're all great matches.
Big football clubs in the top division is what we want to see. So when Birmingham stay in the Championship, that seems about right as well.
They'll probably get promoted this next season. You know that, right?
Listen. Tom Brady is a skunk on English football. That's what it.